So, hello everyone, it's Holly Amber here, and today I am talking about the books I read in March. I sadly didn't get to read a lot of books for fun because I've got a lot of projects to do at the moment. I read a ton of papers, but I read so many, it's kind of hard to identify which were the good ones, and yeah, I read a lot. So I managed to read 3 books this month, and yeah, let's get into it. So the first book I read this month was The Lady and the Panda by Vicky Constantine Crook. And I mentioned this book in my last video because I started it in the last week of February and I finished it at the start of March. I thought this was really good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think it's a very unique book which not everybody will want to read, but I think it's still very informative. It teaches you a lot about how life was in the 1930s, especially in the kind of socialite / biological aspect. And some of it made me quite sad because the lady who this is about, Ruth Harkness, she was able, even though it was the 1930s, to identify the issues of conservation and see the beauty in nature and the reason why we should be preserving it. And she knew where the issues were lying already. The fact that so many people were out there hunting pandas and there was no kind of protection. And she was an incredibly open-minded woman with a knowledge beyond her times. The things she talks about in her letters, and which have been explored in this book, show how incredibly smart this woman was. She deals with her mindset on racism and things like that. Racism, conservation, all that sort of stuff. She is incredibly insightful on it. And it's quite shocking to see someone from the 1930s have a mindset of somebody who is very open-minded nowadays. And so I found that quite impressive, but it was also very sad, some of the things she talked about. Even though this was, 70, 80 years ago, the stuff which is happening in this story, she identified issues with racism and with conservation, which are still an issue to this day. She knew that the Americans in particular were very disrespectful to Chinese people, and yet there's still an issue with racism and some of the things she discussed to this day. And there's still issues with people overhunting and damaging the environment and polluting and stuff like that as well. And back then she knew that these were issues and she identified this, and yet to this day we're still not addressing these things. We're simply stating, oh, we know this is an issue, but nothing's being done about it. I mean, pandas at the start of this were not that bad off. They were rare to see, but that was because the area where they lived was so unexplored and so isolated that people just didn't go there. It was a dangerous place to go. But by the end of it, so many pandas had been hunted and killed because she managed to find one, and then suddenly people went panda crazy, and the amount of people out there trying to find them and just not having the same patience and capacity to nurture them and raise them like she did means that tons of them died. She took her time with the first panda she caught to bring it up right, and she made sure it got fed correctly, made sure it was always kept in the right environment. She wouldn't let people who smoked near it. She kept the windows open, she kept it with plenty of air, she didn't like keeping it in polluted areas. She kept it away from the paparazzi so it wouldn't get frightened. And yet other people would be going out there to try and do the same thing she did, and then catch a panda, put it in a cage, and then wonder why it died. And it just kept happening over and over again, and it's awful because we're still seeing similar issues in zoos today of animals being mistreated and killed. And yet in the 1930s, Ruth Harkness has already identified it, and just it shows how non-progressive we've been, how slow we've been to adapt our behaviour to solve issues we have with the natural world. So it was very interesting. quite sad in parts. But overall, I'm going to rate it a 3.5 stars out of 5. It's really good. I enjoyed it a lot, and I think it was very informative. It's not necessarily an entertaining book, but I feel like it's an informative read. But I don't think it's for everyone. I don't think everybody will enjoy it as much as I did. So 3.5 out of 5. The second book I read this month was Winterkill by Kate A. Borman. Now, with Winterkill, this book was something I did not expect. The blurb on Winterkill is really brief and it doesn't really go into a lot of detail. I wasn't really sure what to expect from it. And then I was very pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if you could, what to kind of class the genre as. I guess it's fantasy, kind of. There seems to be an aspect of magic in it. Oh, neighbour's dogs are barking, I'll give that a minute. But I'm not really sure to what depth that will be explored in the book. There are 2 more books after this one, and as soon as I finished it I instantly went on Amazon and ordered the next one. Second hand as per usual, as you can tell from how well loved these books are. But I thought it was really good. I really liked it. I thought it was interesting. I did not expect it to go the way it did, and I thought the main character was incredibly relatable, and I think it was brilliant. It's very good at exploring the kind of human condition in a way, so I thought that was really good. So I'm going to give it a 4 stars out of 5. I thought it was great, and can't wait to read the second one. It should be arriving tomorrow, hopefully. So, another book I read was Bats by Phil Richardson, and it is a natural history museum book. I bought this last year and I kind of casually read it, kind of flicked through it, but because one of the projects I'm doing, I bought it maybe a year or so ago, and I kind of casually flicked through it, read a little bit here and there, but didn't really sit down to read the whole thing. But one of the reports I've got due at the moment is about bat conservation. Well, it's about conservation of a species which is endangered, and I chose the golden-crowned flying fox. So because of that, I thought I'd take the time to read up on this and look at kind of the full story. I've always been a bit of a bat nerd. I love bats, especially flying foxes and the sort of old world big bats, the really big ones. And so I sat down, gave this a good read, and I wanted to see what they said about, you know, the physiology, the behaviours and the conservation. And there is the last chapter of this, it's not massive, but the last chapter is about bat conservation, and the species I'm actually focusing on is this one right here. This one he's holding up, and I think that kind of highlights the issue of it when there's already, you know, shows the danger they're in when the picture is literally someone holding one like that. They face a lot of issues due to humans because they are an endemic species to the Philippines, and even though these bats and a lot of other ones which live in the Philippines are protected under things like CITES, not much is done to enforce it, so a lot of them are dying out and their habitat is being absolutely demolished. So it's very important to try and do something about it, and it's an issue which I really want to do something on as soon as I can, because it's something I feel quite passionate about, and bats have always been something I've loved. So yeah, it's not a story, it's just facts, it's just interesting. Natural History Museum do a lot of books on this, on different animal groups, so it was good. I don't know if I can really rate it because it is just an informative book. I mean, for what it is almost, I guess, a textbook, but with a bit more. But I'd you know, personally, I'd give it a 5 out of 5. But if you're interested in bats, I would check it out. There is a lot of detail to it, there is a lot of images. They go into, you know, they kind of talk about specific individual bats and then bats as a whole, and they talk about things like their life cycles, how they roost, the different sorts of feeding patterns, the difference between old world and new world bats, and microbats and megabats. So it's really interesting. It's got a lot of information in, so I thought it was great. And if you like bats, this is a good book to have. It's kind of got everything you need to know. To me, it's a 5 out of 5 because it's good. It's my sort of thing. At the moment, I am reading 2 books. Kind of on accident because, you know, sometimes it just happens that you end up reading 2 books at the same time. The books I'm reading at the moment is The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton, and it's Dr. Tatiana's Sex Advice to All Creation, The Definitive Guide to the Evolutionary Biology of Sex by Olivia Judson, which has lots of little sticky notes sticking out of it because for one of my papers is on acoustic displays in fallow deer, and that is a animal behaviour, and in the end animal behaviour is linked back to sex, so this stuff has a little bit on it which is actually quite useful. So I have things stuck in on references which are useful to me, and also on little kind of things she talks about which are useful. My bookmark has fallen out of it. I'm about 40 pages into this, I think, and it is hilarious and informative at the same time, and I'm really enjoying it. It's kind of like an agony aunt thing for different animal species, where they talk about the issue they're having with sex, and then the author, the Dr. Tatiana as it is, talks about different animals who kind of relate. So I think I mentioned in one of my previous videos, about some bees perform suicidal mating, and this one is, Dear Dr. Tatiana, I'm a queen bee and I'm worried. All my lovers leave their genitals inside of me and then drop dead. Is this normal? So that's the sort of thing they ask, and then she gives a proper scientific exploration of the topic of basically suicidal mating, I guess. So, you know, it's great. It's both brilliant and, you know, informative at the same time. And I've really enjoyed kind of exploring animal behaviour, because I think it's one of the funniest topics, because you look at human sex and then you compare it to the things that animals do, and to animals that's completely normal, but to us it's absolutely bizarre. Imagine if people just left their genitalia in others and then died. It's just that comparison makes animal behaviour so entertaining, and so I think this is hilarious. It's great, and I'm really enjoying it so far, and I can't wait to see the kind of other animals she talks about as well. It's great. I'm not going to rate it until I've finished it, but this is a book I think I'd recommend a lot of people to check out. I was actually recommended it by a friend, and she did good recommending me this. This is brilliant. So I think if you want something funny and both informative, check this out. It's very good. I also bought a couple of magazines this month, which sadly I have not got to read, which sucks because I love reading like science magazines. I bought the latest National Geographic, which is guest edited by Brian Cox, and I used to really want to do astrophysics. That was the area I wanted to go down, but physics is so focused in maths, and although I'm capable of doing maths, it just causes me so much stress. I knew it wouldn't be worth going down that path, and I kind of turned my attention back to biology, which was my kind of first love before physics. So Brian Cox used to be like a massive inspiration for me, and I think I have a couple of his books. Yeah, I have Wonders of the Universe on my bookshelf right now, and I think I have 3 of his other books at home as well, or 2, I can't remember. I think I have 3 of them. So as soon as I saw it was guest edited by Brian Cox, I was like, yeah, I have to have it. But I haven't really got to look into it yet, and I'm really excited because I'd like to kind of go back to learning a bit more about astrophysics and space. And then the other one I haven't even had a chance to open, and it's the Wildlife magazine, the BBC Wildlife one, and it's about predators, and I'm a sucker for some good predators. I like big angry mammals, I guess. I like my bats, which aren't all predators, but I like my bats and I like my wolves, and I like my birds of prey and things like that. So I saw this and I'm like, wolves, yes. There's also a section on why are we so afraid of sharks, and personally I love sharks, but my sister is terrified of them, and any excuse to kind of send her pictures of sharks makes me very happy, which is kind of mean, but it's hilarious to me. So yeah, I'm gonna read out this. There's loads of good stuff. I like my big predator animals, so this should be interesting to read as well. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and you can add me as a friend on Goodreads where you can see what I've been reading as well, and you can take part in the 2018 reading challenge, which I'm currently doing as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and feel free to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.